I am told by my search engine optimization manager that 1 hour narrated videos are the most appealing. So from now on, my narrated videos will be 1 hour in length. We're going to start by speaking to door wood screws, which are screws for wood screws, and specialty wood screws. Wood screws and other types are used when you need greater holding power than that nails can provide, and also when the fastened parts may have to be disassembled. There are 3 common types of screw heads: slot, Phillips, which is cross-slotted, and Robertson, which is square. Each have their own screwdrivers for them. Screws that make their own threads are of 2 basic types: thread forming, used for sheet metal, and thread cutting, used in heavier metal to cut a thread ahead of the main part of the screw. It could be considered more of a bolt than a screw. Both are made in a variety of special forms for door wood screws, with the most widely used being below described. Panhead, pointed screws, are used in drilled sheet metal and thicker material, ductile enough to be threaded by screw action. Also used as a high-strength fastener for plywood and hardwood. The different types of door wood screws are: panhead, with blunt end, used in ductile materials and sheet metals where a sharp point is not needed, such as in blind fastening. It requires a pre-drilled pitot hole. Roundhead, also known as partial tapping, which is frequently used as thread cutting type. It acts as a small tap, therefore can be used in deep holes. It is well suited to soft or hard material and cuts machine screw threads. Roundhead, self-tapping, which is used for similar applications but thicker materials. It also cuts machine screw threads. It is made in sizes to 1/4 inch diameter and require holes drilled to size. The types of screws available are: flathead screws are used in applications where the head must be flush with the surface or slightly below it. It is available in all head types. Oval head screws have the lower portion of the head countersunk and the top is rounded. They are easier to remove and better looking than flathead screws. Roundhead screws are utility screws, used where the fastened piece is too thin to permit countersinking, and also on parts that may require a washer. A dome head screw is a decorative form of flathead screw, concealed by a dome cap. They are classed as ornamental. Phillips head screws have crossed the slots to minimize screwdriver slip out. Cross slots are available for most type screws. A Phillips driver is required. Robertson head screws have a square opening to minimize screwdriver slip out. Robertson screws are available for most type screws. A Robertson driver is required. One-way screws are designed to prevent burglary and theft. If anyone should attempt to remove the screwdriver would slip out of the slot. Dowel screws are used for end-to-end joints and similar applications unsuited to conventional screws. Hanger bolt type screws has one end that is threaded like a screw so it can be driven into wood. The other end is threaded to accept a square or hex nut. Lag bolt or screw is actually a heavy-duty screw and is made in sizes up to about 6 inches in length. The head end is square and the bolt is driven with a wrench. There are different screw sizes. Screw sizes for door wood screws are measured by both length and diameter, with length designated in inches and diameter designated by gauge number. Screws are available in gauges of 0 to 24, with 0 being 1/16 inch and 24 being 3/8 inch. Lengths of screws may be from 1/4 inch to 6 inches. The most common screw diameters are between 0 and 16. Select screw lengths, so at least 2/3 of the screw is in the base material to which you are fastening. To enable screws to go into the work, you must first make a pilot hole. This can be done with an awl for screws up to number 6 gauge. For larger screws, use a drill bit that is at least 2 sizes smaller than the thread diameter. When working in hardwood with door wood screws, or if working with large diameter screws in work that is subject to splitting, drill both a pilot hole and a clearance hole for the screw shank. Clearance holes should be the same diameter as the shank and drilled 1/3 the length of the screw. When installing screws in new work, it is suggested to lubricate the threads with soap or wax. Extras for screws. Screw washers. Washers are used under screw heads in some woodworking applications. The washers provide added bearing surfaces and help to avoid marring of the wood when removal is necessary. There are 3 types: flay, countersunk, and flush. Screw hooks are made to suit specific purposes. A cup hook is fitted with a stop gap to assure uniform extension when the hooks are used in a row. A screw hook is used to hang tools and utensils and has a sharp point to make insertion easy and can easily be driven the depth required. Eye and ring combinations. Take snap hooks as on leashes. A screw eye is formed from a single piece for greater strength. Cast and forged types are also available. Square band screw hook is often used to support curtain rods and the kitchen as a hanger for pots and utensils. This is all I have to say about wood screws, and we will now move on to the next topic. The next topic speaks to various powered tools, mostly used in construction, but also in the maintenance industry. This is speaking to the drill press tabletop drill. The drill press tabletop speaks to best drill presses, such as bench drill presses and drill press. This drill information notes that the drill press is the second most popular stationary power tool in the shop. It is second to only the radial arm saw. The components are base, table, table clamp, column, feed lever, motor, belt guard, quill, depth stop, quill lock, and a geared chuck. Attachments and jig flyer cutters are used to drill large diameter holes, and you should be sure the cutter is locked in place before turning on the power. The drill press vise is a handy accessory for holding round or irregular work. It is suggested that you punch a starting mark in the round work. A hole saw is used to cut holes from 3/4 to 2.5 inches in wood or metal. It can also cut through work at 3/4 inches thick. Countersinking on the drill press is done with a special bit. Always adjust the stop to limit the countersinking depth. Drum sanding may be done on the drill press. Make sure the shaft of the sander is firmly locked before turning on the power. The tool can drill round holes or even square holes at any angle or to a reset depth in wood, metal, and plastic. The size of a drill press is based on the diameter of the circle through which the tool can drill a center hole. To drill a hole at an angle, clamp the work to the drill press table, then tilt and lock the table to the desired angle. Drill press tabletop. Always make sure that you have a supporting block of wood under the work to be drilled to avoid marring the drill press table. This will also prevent splintering as the bit passes through the work. The drill press should always be raised to bring the work as close as possible to the drill bit. In this way, it is possible to utilize fully the entire length of the drill. The next subject to be spoken of is electric hand drills. You'll give me a moment just to take a break here. Here we go. Electric hand drills. How to use them and which are the best. Electric hand drills speaks to how to use these drills. Small electrical drills and the best larger electric hand drills. The hand drill may be powered by 110 volts AC, or it may be powered by a rechargeable power pack. The rechargeable power pack allows for much more portable and versatile power tool. As batteries have improved in power and length of duration, they're more often used than AC powered drills. The drill may be used to drill metal, wood, plastic, and concrete, and using varied attachments may be used to perform many other operations. The size of the drill is determined by the largest drill shank that the geared chuck will accept. Common sizes are 3/8 or 1/2 inch, with the 3/4 inch more for commercial or industrial use. The 1/2 inch drill has a slower turning speed than the 3-inch drill, and the 3/4 inch drill has a lower turning speed than the 1/2 inch. The 1/2 inch drill is equipped with a handle which allows the user to handle the extra power. Most drills today are speed controlled from the switch and are reversible. All drills are equipped with a 3-wire grounding plug, known as 3-prong, and protect the user from shock in case the drill has an electric short. Electric hand drill bits. There are a variety of bits available for the electrical hand drill. Various size twist drills for wood and metal, an auger, a spade, a carbide for brick and masonry, a rotary rasp, a rotary file, a hole saw, fly cutter. Drill attachments. A depth gauge which locks to the shaft of the drill bit at any required distance to limit the depth of a hole. Right angle attachment, which is used in areas where space is tight. Flexible shaft attachment, which allows you to access where space is tight and is up to 40 inches long. A screw make device allows you to drill a pilot hole, shank clearance hole, and countersink in any one operation. An extension is used for drilling holes beyond the length of the drill bit. An auger is used for drilling holes into the ground for gardening considerations. Grinder attachments. A grinding wheel, which is used with a drill stand, is used for sharpening tools and drill bits. A grinding disc that has sharp metal perforations, which removes paint from wood and metal. Grinding stones, which are available in different sizes and shapes. Cutting attachments. A circle cutter can make holes up to a 12-inch diameter. Carbide impregnated cut-off discs is used to cut metal. The drill should be mounted on a stand. A hole cutter enables you to make circular holes in wood up to 2.5-inch diameter. A hacksaw attachment is used for cutting metal using rotary motion of a drill converted into reciprocating action. Sanding attachments. A drum sander can be used for sanding the edges of work and comes in varied grit sizes. Ball-jointed rubber back disc sander is used for rough sanding and paint removal. A steel drum rasp is available in many sizes and has a 1/4-inch shank to fit the drill chuck. It is used for rough sanding on curved surfaces. Disc sander is used with a drill stand. Other miscellaneous attachments are chipping wheels for removing flaking paint from concrete floors and other surfaces. Rotating wheels have hardened steel points. Paint sprayer attachment uses a drill to power the compressor. It is complete with a rubber hose, spray gun with pint cup, and mounting hardware. Also a paint stirrer which stirs paint in a can. A screwdriver can simply be used as a powered screwdriver attachment. The next subject we're going to speak to is handheld circular saws. There, I have it now. Little bugger was handy. Handheld circular saw is a circular saw. It's used for both safe use and maintenance. A hand circular saw will consist of these components: handle, trigger switch, motor, knob handle, blade tilt lock, base plate, rip fence, replaceable blade, lower blade guard, a blade locking washer and bolt, a blade height lock, a retracting knob for the lower blade guard, an upper blade guard. It is best to buy a saw that is capable of cutting a 2x4 at a large 45-degree angle and should have a blade diameter of 7 inches or more. Other considerations: the saw should have a depth adjustment, which allows you to make shallow cuts when required. The saw should have an angle adjustment for cutting meters and bevels, which provides and guides the saw when you want to rip a board to a specific width. The saw should have an automatic spring actuated blade guard. This blade guard enters to work and then covers the exposed part of the blade as soon as the cut has been completed. Blades. Combination cross-cut and rip blade is suitable for most purposes. It does a good job of cutting thick or thin hardwood and softwoods with or across the grain, as well as plywood and hardwood. The crossbutt blade, which has fine teeth, will cut smoothly across grain of either hardwood or softwood. It is suitable for cutting plywood, hardboard, and hardened veneers. It is also good for framing 2x4 lumber. The rip blade has larger teeth than the combination blade and is recommended when it is desired to a large amount of cutting with the grain. It is best used with the rip fence or guide batten for easier, more accurate setting. A hollow ground blade makes the smoothest cut and cuts thick or thin materials requiring little or no sanding. It is suggested to keep the blade sharp to minimize fiber fraying and wood scorching, which may happen if the blade is dull. Abrasive blades are suitable for masonry, metal, plastic, and other hard materials. They are excellent for scoring bricks or blocks for ease of breaking. It is suggested that you buy the blade to suit the type of material being cut. Okay, we're going to speak now to ideal hand tools. Yep, we're getting there. Here we go. Ideal hand tools speaks to ideal tools, ideal electrician tools, ideal carpenter tools, and ideal trade tools for use in construction and maintenance. Always buy the best tools you can afford, as they should be considered a lifetime investment for the building technician or homeowner. These tools are necessary to allow the building technician to respond to most trouble calls. He will thrive throughout the course of the day. When you have the proper tools, preventive maintenance and maintenance can be done in the shortest time frame possible. In most cases, this will allow for ongoing comfortable work conditions for the tenants. The building technician, unlike the homeowner, will need a few specialty tools that the homeowner will not. These are test equipment, such as a C-clamp ammeter, which will allow electrical current to be measured, and tachometers, which will allow motor speed to be determined. The daily tasks that a building technician will face are for the most part more demanding and diverse than that for the homeowner. In Canada, the building technician will need a working understanding of both metric and imperial systems, as many parts used are manufactured in the USA. The USA, I believe, is the only country which still uses the metric system. A basic toolkit should have a crosscut saw, hammer, nail set and punch, assorted screws and nails, measuring tape, bits and drills, awl, regular screwdrivers, Phillips screwdrivers, Robertson screwdrivers, pliers, glue and brush, small level, sandpaper with holder, an adjustable wrench, a box sand wrench set, a knife, a toilet plunger, an oil can, and a plane. Suggested additions may be a hacksaw, a back saw and meter box, set of chisels, side cutting pliers, large screwdriver, pipe wrench, C-clamp, sharpening stone, file, level, combination square, propane torch, bits and brace, vise, small wrecking bar, metal snips, channel lock, pliers, scraper, wire stripper, stapler putty, knife, soldering gun with solder, a jigsaw, a pipe clamp, bearing pullers, C-clamp and probe, and a tachometer. We're now going to move on to particular tools, and this section will deal with the industrial radial arm saw. The industrial radial arm saw speaks to saws which cut in a radial fashion. The radial arm saw will do much work, same work as a bench saw, but cuts from above the work rather than from below. The components of such are the blade, ripping hole down, sawdust discharge, switch, ripping scales, carriage damp lock, rear post, yoke, and the motor, also a fence. In cross-cutting, the radial arm saw has a great advantage over the bench saw. The work is stationary and is clamped to the table, while the saw motor unit moves across the work. This eliminates the awkward procedure of pushing long pieces of lumber across the work. The same is true of meter and angle cutting. In ripping, the saw motor unit is locked parallel to the guide fence, and work is pushed through the saw, the same as in bench saw ripping. For an angle cut, the saw motor is set at the desired angle. Work is held against the fence, then the saw is pulled across the work. Decorative grooves are produced by raising the blade to make a shallow cut. The dado cut is made with repeated passes. The next subject to be spoken to is the metric English conversion, which occurred many years ago. Metric English conversion speaks to the English metric conversion table, standard to metric conversion used everywhere in the world other than the United States. United States is now the only country in the world that uses imperial measure. Examples of such are feet, inches, quarts, and gallons. The attractiveness of the metric system is everything is given the power of 10 and are designated by given prefixes. The conversion to the metric system of weights and measures is referred to as metrification. This has involved a long process of independent and systematic conversion of countries from various local systems of weights and measures. Metrication began in France in the 1790s and spread widely during the following 2 centuries to the internationally dominating measurement system and legal standard. This process is called metrification. Decimal numbers are an essential part of the metric system, with only one base unit and multiples created on the decimal base. The figures remain the same, simplifying the calculation. Although the Indians used decimal numbers for mathematical computations, it was Simon Stevin who in 1585 first advocated the use of decimal numbers for everyday purposes in his booklet, De Tien, Old Dutch for the tenths. He also declared it would only be a matter of time before decimal numbers were used for currencies and measurements. His notation for decimal fractions was clumsy, but was overcome by the introduction of the decimal point, generally attributed to Bartholomew Pittacus, who used his notation in his trigonomical tables of 1595. Yes, way back then. Prefixes used. Tera means times 1 trillion. Giga times 1 billion. Mega times 1 million. Kilo times 1,000. Hector times 100. Deca times 10. The base numbers used are deci, 1/10th, centi, 1/100th, milli, 1/1000th, micro, 1/1,000,000th, nino, 1/1000,000th, and pico, 1/1,000,000,000th. When you're speaking in volumes, 1 liter equals 0.22 gallons. 2 liters equals 0.44 gallons. 3 liters equals 0.66 gallons. 4 liters equals 0.88 gallons. 5 liters equals 1.1 gallons. 6 liters equals 1.32 gallons. 7 liters equals 1.54 gallons. 8 liters equals 1.76 gallons. 9 liters equals 1.98 gallons. 10 liters equals 2.2 gallons. When speaking of weight, 1 kilogram equals 2.2 pounds. 2 kilograms equals 4.41 pounds. 3 kilograms equals 6.61. 4 kilograms equals 8.82 pounds. 5 kilograms equals 11.02 pounds. 6 kilograms equals 13.23 pounds. 7 kilograms equals 15.43 pounds. 8 kilograms equals 17.64 pounds. 9 kilograms equals 19.84 pounds. 10 kilograms equals 22.05 pounds. Grams to ounces. 28.35 grams equals 1 ounce. 56.79 grams equals 2 ounces. 85.05 grams equals 3 ounces. 113.4 grams equals 4 ounces. 141.75 grams equals 5 ounces. 170.10 equals 6 ounces. 198.45 equals 7 ounces. 226.8 equals 8 ounces. 255.15 equals 9 ounces. 283.5 equals 10 ounces. 311.4 equals 11 ounces. 340.19 grams equals 12 ounces. 368.54 grams equals 13 ounces. 396.89 grams equals 14 ounces. 425.24 grams equals 15 ounces. 453.59 grams equals 16 ounces. This is 16 ounces is of most interest to the mid-level drug dealers and sellers of marijuana throughout the world. Too much information? I guess so. Distance. 1 meter equals 1.094 yards. 2 meters equals 1.8229 yards. 3 meters equals 3.281 yards. 4 meters equals 4.374 yards. 5 meters equals 5.468 yards. 6 meters equals 6.562 yards. 7 meters equals 7.655 yards. 8 meters equals 8.749 yards. 9 meters equals 9.842 yards. When speaking of area, 1 square meter equals 10.764 square feet. 2 square meters equals 21.528 square feet. 3 square meters equals 32.292 square feet. 4 square meters equals 43.056 square feet. 5 square meters equals 53.819 square feet. 6 square meters equals 64.583 square feet. 7 square meters equals 75.347 square feet. 8 square meters equals 86.111 square feet. And 9 meters equals 96.875 square feet. Last but not least is volume. cubic meters to cubic yards. 1 cubic meter equals 1.308 cubic yards. 2 cubic meters equals 2.616 cubic yards. 3 cubic meters equals 3.924 cubic yards. 4 cubic meters equals 5.232 cubic yards. 5 cubic meters equals 6.540 cubic yards. 6 cubic meters equals 7.848 cubic yards. 7 cubic meters equals 9.156 cubic yards. 8 cubic meters equals 10.463 cubic yards. 9 cubic meters equals 11.771 cubic yards. This is the completion of metric to English conversion. Next, we will speak of nuts and bolts used as industrial fasteners. Nuts and bolts used as industrial fasteners also included are hardware screws and bolts online, and nuts, bolts, screws. This information deals with nuts and bolt fastener information. A bolt is generally defined as a fastener used with a nut, which is tightened by turning the nut. Machine bolts and threaded rods are available in a coarse or fine thread, with the coarse being more common. The thread size of bolts is determined by the number of threads per inch. It is designated by a numerical following the bolt diameter, and the diameter is given in fractions of an inch. This, a 1/4 inch by 20 bolt, would be 1/4 inch in diameter and have 20 threads to the end. Bolt sizes range from 1/8 times 40 to 1/2 times 13, and their lengths from 3/8 to 6 inches. Machine bolt diameters range from 1/4 inch to as large as 2 inches, and lengths from 1/2 to 30 inches. Nuts and bolt industrial fasteners. Carriage bolts are made with coarse threads and are available in lengths from 1/2 to 10 inches, and in diameters from 3/6 inch to 3/4 inch. The square section under the head of the carriage bolt sinks into the wood, preventing rotation of the bolt when the nut is tightened. That makes it possible to tighten the nut when the bolt head is not accessible. Use a washer between the nut and wood. Types of bolts. Machine bolts are made in both square and hex head forms and have either square or hex nuts. Bolts are available with both coarse and fine threads. Carriage bolts have coarse threads. The head variation include a countersunk flat-topped head in addition to the round head. The shoulder keeps the bolt from turning when the nut is tightened. Stove bolts are made with slotted, round, flat or oval heads, and they have coarse threads. Originally used in stove construction, but now sold as general utility bolts. Masonry bolt and anchor is made in many forms. All of them work according to the same principle. As the bolt is tightened, the shell around it expands and grips the inside of the hole. Toggle bolts are used for fastening to hollow walls. A hole large enough to pass the spring-loaded wings must be drilled in the wall. The wings spread out and bear against the wall as the head is screwed home. Nuts and bolts are used for industrial fasteners. A molly bolt is similar to a toggle and is also used for attaching to hollow surfaces. The bolt is passed through the clearance hole, and as the head is turned, the legs are pushed forward to grip the wall. A turnbuckle consists of a steel sleeve and two screw eyes. Half of the sleeve and one screw eye have a right-hand thread. The other have a left-hand thread. Turning the sleeve left or right moves screw eyes in or out. U-bolts, J-bolts, I-bolts are all special purpose fasteners and holders, produced in various shapes and used when that shape suits a particular application. The types of washer and nuts: flat washer, spring lock washer, internal tooth, external tooth, hex nut, jam nut, square nut, flat square nut, wing nut, castle nut, lock nut, cap nut, knurled nut. Types of fasteners: gravity toggle bolts have a swivel toggle that drops vertically when pushed through a pre-drilled hole. It comes in various sizes: 1/8, 3/16, 1/4 inch in diameter, and up to 3 inches in length. Split wing toggles have two spring-loaded arms that expand after the toggle is pushed through a pre-drilled hole. Toggle is lost if the bolt is removed. Various sizes: 1/8, 3/16, 1/4 inch diameter, and up to 4 inches in length. Collapsible anchors remain in place if the bolt is removed. As the bolt is turned, it draws metal gripping shoulders against the inner wall. Various sizes for walls up to 1 3/4 inch thick. Hollow door anchors are basically similar to molly bolts, but are used for very thin veneers, as such are found on hollow core closet and passageway doors. This is all I know about nuts and bolts used as industrial fasteners. The next subject is orbital floor sanders. Orbital floor sanders are wood floor sanders used for wood floor refinishing, floor sanding, and refinishing. Floor sanders are used as a finishing tool because its abrasive surface moves in small diameter circular motion. It is particularly effective where more than one grain direction is encountered, such as in meter joints or in checkered patterns. Components: there's a rear handle, a switch, a locking button, a front handle, paper holder. Abrasive paper in many sanders are now on the market and can be switched from orbital sanding to straight light sanding with the flip of a switch. The sanding surfaces vary about 3 by 7 and 4 by 9 inches. Most orbital sanders are motor powered, except for a cheaper model which makes use of a vibrator. The front knob on all sanders can be removed, so that the sander can work right up to a vertical surface without interference. Every manufacturer has its own method of attaching the sandpaper to the operating end. Some use clamps, others a knurled rod or a sliding clip arrangement. The locking button near the switch will ensure the motor runs without the need of constant pressure on the spring-loaded switch. We're now going to speak about reciprocating saws. This is a review of the reciprocating saws and what they're used for. This review should tell you what a reciprocating saw is used for, and for floor sanding, and the best reciprocating saws. This review explains that this power saw is an adaptation of the saber or jigsaw for heavier duty work as may be found in the construction trades. The components to this saw are there's a cord, handle, blade, a blade guide, motor, handle. Switchblade type, coarse tooth blade which is used to rough cut green wood. The hacksaw blade which cuts metal up to 1/8 inch thick. The knife blade which is used for leather, rubber, cloth and linoleum. Fine tooth plate which is used to cut smooth cut wood, plastic and hardboard. The saw blades which are interchangeable are available in lengths of 2.5 to 12 inches and may be used for cutting metal wood up to 6 inches thick. Blades may be mounted to cut up, down, horizontally, and flush with an adjoining surface. In structural work and remodeling, long blades are sometimes used to cut through a wall. It is important to ensure plumbing or wiring won't be affected before cutting for obvious reasons. These blades can cut through any nails that they may encounter. Some blades are manufactured for cutting metal, such as pipe or bar stock, and should be lubricated with light oil during the cutting process. The saws are available in single speed and variable speed models. The lower speeds are more efficient in cutting steel and thermoplastics. Now the next subject we're speaking to is side grinding wheels. Side grinding wheels speak to grinding wheel types, the history of the wheel, and such. This is a high-speed tool that rotates at about 35 RPM. When using, it is suggested that you always wear protective goggles, even though the grinder is equipped with shatterproof transparent eye shields. There is also a metal guard around the wheel for protection against wheel failure. The components are there's a wheel guard, a motor, eye shield, tool rest adjustment, switch, base, coarse wheel, fine wheel, lamb's wool buffer, cloth buffer, fiber brush, and a wire brush. Set the adjustable tool rests that supports the work about 1/8 inch from the wheel. Use the coarse wheel for soft materials and the fine wheel for hard brittle material and smooth finishing. To avoid damage from overheating, let the wheel cool between passes. If you replace a grinding wheel, make sure the wheel is rated to the same speed rating. This is of most importance. The grinder can be used to clean and polish. Wire brush wheels, coarse and fine, are the best to remove dust and corrosion from metal and to produce a medium luster finish. For a high polish use a cloth buffing wheel with buffing compounds. Lubrication. Most grinders have ball bearings that need no lubrication. If your tool has oil holes or grease cups, apply the recommended lubricant as required. This is as far as we're going to go today, because I'm advised listening to me for any more than 55 minutes can be a real aggravation. All this narrated information can also be found in print on my website, HVAC for Beginners, www.what-is-hvac.com. Have a good day now. Bye. This is Building Systems Information video number 2. The first I'm going to speak about is the best belt sander, which speaks to the best big belt sanders, what's the best belt sander, and best power belt sanders. This type of sander is suited to removing material quickly from a flat surface and has a noticeable surface flattening effect. The components are main handle, trigger switch, front handle, front pulley, belt, shoe, air intake slots, rear pulley for fast wood removal. Operate the sander at about a 45-degree angle to the grain direction using a fairly coarse belt. This produces a smooth final finish. Use the sander parallel to the grain, first with a medium and then fine belt. The cost of the tool is dependent on capacity, power, and attachments. Most use sandpaper that is 3 or 4 inches wide, but the average for home use is 3 inches wide. Ensure that the sander has a high-low switch and is useful in the polishing metal and wood. Another useful attachment is a dust pickup system. The belt sander produces a lot of dust, and the pickup attachments are very handy indeed. They act as a mini vacuum cleaner. Considering when purchasing a belt sander, easy to use controls, simple procedure to remove and install belts, a means of adjusting one pulley so that the belt tracks in a straight line, and a not too difficult means of installing new brushes. Next, we will be speaking about the best jack plane. The best jack plane speaks to a tested jack planes, planes for the beginner, and how to use a jack plane. This jack plane information states that this tool is directly related to the electric block plane, but does the work of a hand plane with less effort, and produces a smooth job on knots and wavy grain. It functions by means of a revolving cutter that turns at about 22,000 RPM. The components of the tool are: there's a handle, an elevating knob, a switch, motor, fence lock, handle, and a fence. The plane has a fence which projects down from one side perpendicular to the bottom. If you are planing the edge of a board or door, the fence is held against the side of the work. This produces a perfect square edge cut. The fence can be removed for surface planing of wide areas, and when tilted, it can be used for beveling. To plane a long board, clamp the piece of work securely and grasp the jack plane firmly. Then use down as well as side pressure to keep the guide snug against the work. To make a bevel cut across the grain, set the fence at the desired angle. Use the same procedure as explained above for planing a long board, but reduce down the pressure to front. This will minimize chipping at the end of the cut. As an alternate method, you can clamp screw work at the end of your work. I'll be just a minute here whilst I find my place. Taking longer than I thought. Here we are. Now we're going to speak to block plane sharpening. Block plane sharpening. Sharpening hand planes. Plane sharpening jig. Sharpening a plane blade. Block plane sharpening speaks to sharpening hand planes, plane sharpening jig, and sharpening a plane blade. This site describes sharpening as well the uses of an electric block. This tool is directly related to the electric jack plane, but is smaller, lighter, and easier to use. The block plane may be used with one hand leaving the other free to support this work. This tool can be used for surface planing, such as planing the inside of a window and line. It can quickly fix a stuck door. Components are: there's a handle, motor, cutter depth adjustment, cutter guard, brush cap, cutter lock path pin, cutter shaft, cutter, cutter washer, cutter bolt, wrench, adjustable guide fence, and a fence wing nut. Block plane sharpening procedures. Using a magnifying glass, inspect the cutting edge for burrs and ticks. Using an electric bench grind wheel with a medium grit, remove the burrs and nicks. Firmly hold the blade to be sharpened bevel side up and move it to the right side, right to left against the grinding wheel, ensuring that the cutting edge is held square to the wheel. Then turn over the blade to bevel side down and repeat the previous action, holding the blade at a 25-degree angle matching the bevel. Using a fine grit stone with a few drops of oil on it, finish the edge. Hold the bevel flat against the stone. Pull the blade back towards you and lift at the end of the stroke. Wipe the blade clean every 3 strokes and clean and again oil the stone. Once again, drag the blade across the stone with bevel side up to remove any burrs that might exist. Re-examine the blade using your magnifying glass. Now we're going to speak to the chainsaw sharpening guide. The Chainsaw Sharpening Guide speaks to how to sharpen a chainsaw. That Chainsaw Sharpening for Beginners. This guide describes chainsaw components, sharpening techniques, and most importantly, safe operating procedures. It is suggested that for average use, a gas or electric powered chainsaw with a 12 to 6-inch bar or blade would be a good choice. A typical saw can be cut through a 6-inch hardwood log in seconds. It is suggested that gasoline-powered saws have a special clutch which prevents the chain from moving while the motor is idling. When the throttle is open, the clutch engages and drives the chain. The components of this device are a shroud lock, carburetor adjusting screws, fuel pump, chain brake, chain sprocket cover, chain catcher, chain tensioner, bumper spike, guide bar, saw chain, chain tensioner, adjusting wheel, handle of wing nut, oil filler cap, muffler, the front handguard, the front handlebar, a spark plug boot, a starter grip, fuel oil filler cap, and a master control lever, and a throttle trigger interlock, a rear handle, rear handguard. You must first determine the size or gauge of your saw's chain, and you will need to buy either a rotary grind saw or chainsaw file, rat tail file, that matches your blade. Since there are several types of chainsaw teeth, the grindstone or file you choose must be the correct diameter for your saw. Typical sizes are 3/16, 5/32, and 7/32 inches in diameter. The Chainsaw Sharpening Guide states you must clean the chain. You may use mineral spirits or a commercial degreasing detergent to remove oil, dirt, and debris from your chain. Do not flood or get excessive cleaner on the engine or other components, since some of these products can damage the plastic housing or other parts. The Chainsaw Sharpening Guide states you must inspect the chain for damaged or worn links and teeth. Individual teeth may become chipped, broken, or bent, making them dangerous to use. It is suggested the top plate should be at least 1/4 inch in length. If it is shorter than this, there is a risk it will break while operating your saw. Replace any damaged chains. The Chainsaw Sharpening Guide states, for sharpening, place your saw on a solid surface or clamp the blade in a vise. The saw must be stable and the blade must be supported in a stationary manner to fill your jaw safely and accurately. Clamping the bar in a vise with the jaws, holding the bar and allowing the chain to rotate freely is the preferred method of holding it. You must locate the leading cutter. This will be the shortest cutter on the chain. If all the cutters seem to be the same length, you may start anywhere. The main concern is to file each cutter so the flat on top of the cutter is very nearly the same length, so that they each cut away the same amount of wood as they pass through the cut. Note which tooth you start on with some type of work. The Chainsaw Sharpening Guide suggests you set your file in the notch on the front of the cutter. This is the angled tooth on the front of the flat surface of the chain link. The curve of the file should fit the curve of the face of the cutting tip, and the top of the file should be nearly flush with the top of the tooth. Place the Then work each tooth with the same angle from one side of the cabin around the loop. As you progress around the chain, you will want to spin it so the teeth that you are filing are on the flat top side of your bar. Reverse the saw to the other side and proceed around the unfiled teeth angled in the other direction. Keep an eye on the length of each flat top of the cutter. Check the clearance of the depth of the rakers, which are the curved hook-shaped lengths between the cutters. They should clear each cutting edge about 1/10 of an inch lower than the cutter. This gauges the amount of chip that the cutter removes on each pass through the wood. A special tool, the laden top of the blade, is available from chainsaw dealers or hardware stores. If the gauge is too high and must be filed, this tool protects the adjacent tooth as you file the gauge down. File any rakers that interfere with the cutter, that means that are too high, with a file. Oil your chain. Saturate engines on video number 3. Thank you. Goodbye.